All right, so I have not done our new quarterback yet, but I wanted to start with AJ Dillon because I haven't done the podcast yet, and I want to make sure I kind of solidify some of my thoughts. So, again, not trying to really rationalize why it's a good pick because I would be kind of lying. Although I didn't have AJ Dillon that low on my list, I kind of liked him. Let me just pause this and look real quick. So AJ Dillon was the second guy on my second tier, if that makes sense. So um, I don't even have listed what number he was, but it would be one, two, three, four, five. One, two, three, four, five, and I think there was one or two guys that I didn't even put on here. So seven guys on my top tier. So he's my eighth, I guess, or ninth. Anyways, my biggest issue with him was he's a real get ahead of steam, kind of steamroller kind of guy, but I still think he's kind of a 4 yard per carry and down um, running back. I want to sort of challenge that a little bit. There's some nuance here that I'm really, really impressed with. And then obviously some stuff that isn't maybe as great. So that's what we're going to do. Here's one of the things, and if you don't know, AJ Dillon is 250 pounds. He's a monster, but he's also actually relatively quick. Um, so surprisingly, for a 250-pound guy, similar to Aaron Jones, actually, some of his best work comes when there's nothing there and he bounces it to the outside. So here's an example of a big guy, and these guys saying we got to really get down here and really take this guy out. And then when he bounces it to the outside, it's like, oh shoot, we got to get on our horse and get him. There he goes, nothing there again, stiff arm, and he gets a big chunk right there. So he's not he's not inept in terms. I mean, he's got speed, so he can still do this kind of stuff, which is not what you would expect, right? The first thought when you see a 250-pound guy, I mean, it's actually relatively similar to Derrick Henry, which I don't think anyone should necessarily be complaining about. A big guy with some wheels, but it kind of surprises people because you figure, okay, this is your third down back. No, not. I mean, first of all, you don't take a third down back in the second round. This is going to be an every down back. Um, but that would be one attribute that is maybe underappreciated. And I think part of the reason I was even as low as on AJ Dillon as I was is I just watched one game, maybe two, but I probably just watched one with AJ Dillon because I didn't really care. I didn't expect to really like a 250-pound running back, anyways. And the top game was Clemson. If you want to watch Boston College versus Clemson to get your best view of a player, probably not the best situation ever, but that's what I did. And so you want to see worst case scenario, assuming the Packers don't have an offensive line, that's a great game to watch. So this isn't exactly the best example of it, but I feel like this is another attribute that in which he could be used. Two running back sets. However, when you get him out in space to block, this isn't even the best example of it. We're going to see some really amazing examples of him being just a violent guy. But just remember, 250 pounds of some speed, he gets a full head of steam. It's kind of scary to watch. So he's going to go out and he's going to, oh, that's not the right play. All right, well, here's the play where he's going to run out and block. And he didn't. I mean, it wasn't as violent of a block. They're not going to re-show it, but that is an example of something. And he's actually pretty good at it. And again, we'll find better examples later. I wanted to lay the groundwork at least a little bit on that because it's fun to watch. So this is the next play. I would say this is sort of my least favorite thing of his. He's a really high runner, and he's pretty tall as it is. He needs to get his shoulders lower. Now, if I can find it, there are examples of him getting extremely low to the ground. So he's not incapable. He's a real athletic dude. But he kind of gets in there and he just keeps his shoulders real high, and it looks kind of ugly. This is an example of that. It just and there's kind of a lot of that, which is why I said he's like a 3.5 yards and down guy in my notes, because it just kind of looks like that. But again, I want to pick up on the little bit of nuance that kind of shows why I think he has, similar to Love, a really, really high ceiling. And again, we don't need to push him into the starting role immediately. He'll be a rotational guy. I believe he will get a lot of carries this year. But the ability to develop and learn behind Jamal and Aaron, and I think that's going to be very beneficial. But we'll get to the point of where the nuance is. So this right here is probably what most people are going to say is his biggest attribute, and it makes sense that he would be in a Matt LaFleur system because it's an outside zone-ish kind of. I mean, not the play itself, but the one cut and go. Right? He's going to kind of stop for a second. He's going to cut into the hole and burst through it. So It's nothing super special, but it's kind of what most people would say his ceiling is, which I would kind of disagree with. But it's a good attribute either way, especially in the Green Bay Packers' current system. Beep, boom, bang. And he's got enough power to kind of drag guys. And there's some real good examples of him just dragging people. So that's pretty much it. And again, remember what I said, and I don't remember the exact stat, but I was going through some of the things the Packers are the absolute worst at. And when you're looking at third down, I think it's third and fourth down, the Packers are one of the worst running teams in all of football. One of the best running teams on first and second down, one of the best throwing teams on third and fourth down, one of the worst throwing teams on first and second, one of the worst running teams on third and fourth. I'm not saying we got AJ Dillon just for those numbers, but he's going to help on third and twos, no question. This is a really cool play, and I would not say he's a good receiver, but again, one of the cool things about him is that he's a freight train. And if you can get him out in space and let him get a full head of steam, there's kind of this just feeling, even with him on our team, of just looking at the defense and going, "Oh no, you poor people." But there's a couple cool things here. So this is a great pass, but he ends up having real good hands, and I think he drops one a little bit later. But real good hands catch. He gets a full head of steam, but then watch the really nice cut also to kind of keep this thing going. He's got surprising agility. Boop, and then again kind of steamrolls again. So that was first and 20. He got him back to the 10 plus 3 maybe, so 13 yards. I thought that was pretty solid. I mean, it wasn't a Christian McCaffrey cut, but there's a little bit of that. And I don't want to say Christian McCaffrey, but the reason Christian McCaffrey was my favorite running back coming out of college of all time was his ability to see something. And as soon as he saw it, his body just went. There didn't seem to be any mental processing or thought about, okay, I need to go here, and any labored movements about, okay, I got to kind of plant my foot and slow down and then launch the other direction. He just did it. It was like one of those old games with a joystick where you just move the joystick and your guy moves, or Pac-Man. There's no stopping and starting. Um, that wasn't exactly the case here. If we watch that again, he's got like one step to stop, beep beep, and then he goes. Still pretty decent though. Pause the wrong one. Especially as big and as heavy as he is, to be able to kind of stop and cut that quick. It's hard to stop moving this much momentum. So, anyways, we'll get to better examples, but there's a receiving example for you. Here's a fantastic rep, because not only does he see the one cut, right? He sees the hole and he cuts, but this is him getting low, which is the thing that he struggles with. But again, I don't think that's a really hard thing to coach. Of all the things that you think of to, like, Jordan Love's not making those silly mistakes and throwing picks, I think that's near the top of really hard things to coach out of people. Getting a running back to learn to keep his pads low. And look how, first of all, again, the one cut, then look how low he gets to almost scoop this defender who's basically laying on the ground up off the ground and power through him. I love this rep right here. Boof. He goes up underneath him, who's already really low. He gets under him, scoops him up, and powers right through him. Absolutely love that. And it's encouraging because, again, high pad level is his problem. Let's back this up. I didn't see they showed the other angle, so let's look at this angle. Boop. I dig it. I just want to show this too, because it's nothing. He's going to run around, stop, and turn around, but look how fast he looks. Maybe it's just me, but does he look quick to you? He's going to pretend to block and then shoot out. I mean, I feel like, man, if you just kept going, he might have had him there. I don't know. So this is another area where, and I don't think he's getting a touchdown either way, but with his power, I mean, it's sort of a matter of, when you're up high, you're not nearly as powerful as you should be. Whereas if you get low, now there's 3 defenders stopping him either way, but again, we'll have a better offensive line for him to run through, and he can still power through like one guy. But there's going to be instances where you can see, if he gets low enough, as big and as strong as he is, he can push 3 guys this far, no problem. But he doesn't really do that here. As you can see, he's not getting in either way, but he's not super low either. Here's a second attempt, and this one looks a lot better. But again, I think the issue is, and I'm surprised he doesn't get in, but when your feet aren't on the ground, all that power goes away again. So he tries to launch himself in the air, and again, you're just going to lose all your power doing that. So, I mean, it looked like, and it might have been that he even was getting cut out here, so he kind of had to, and I'm sure he just thought he had it. But when your feet are in the air, the power's gone. Keep your feet on the ground, get your shoulders low, and blast through these guys. But anyways, it didn't work again, and no, they're going to say it's not a touchdown. This is going to end up being a sack, but as you can see, he blew right past that edge rusher. So again, not blazing fast, but not completely inept. If you and they're not expecting it. You send him out against linebackers or edge guys, especially. I mean, that guy didn't even have a chance. He was flat-footed, and AJ Dillon just blew right past him. So, again, nice to see. And again, this is the biggest issue. Not that there's much there, but just it's the pad level, man. It drives me nuts. Look how high he is as he's trying to navigate his way through there and just stand straight up. And he's very easy to grab, and he's not very low, so he doesn't have a lot of power. So guys just grab him and he just goes down. That's got to get cleaned up. Here's a 3rd and 3, and we're going to get a good idea of his blocking ability, which I'm sure has a big part of the reason of why he got drafted. He's a big boy. I wouldn't say he's the best blocker I've ever seen, but obviously he can handle his business. So here you go. I mean, not only did he block him, I mean, he just pushed him straight back, straight out of the way. Here's another shot of that. Just blowing him straight out of there. I mean, if you're a linebacker, that's embarrassing. To not only get blocked, but to just get pushed out of the way like you're not even there. So well done. And so if you want to see a little bit of what makes him rare, right? With Jordan Love, there's certain things you look at and go, man, there's not many guys that can do that. Not that this is going to be drawn up this way, but again, you want to see him smash some people. He's just going to go run a route and somebody gets in his way for about a second. Ready? Here he is. Do 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 do. Move. Do 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 do. Doof. I mean, it's really too bad that he got sacked because that would have just been one of the ultimate running back highlights for this year is him just smoking a guy and then being open for the pass. And of course, he was open, obviously. Something else I want to point out. One of the reasons I looked up like Notre Dame and some lesser colleges is because this offensive line is so terrible. And look at the score. This is a terrible football team. So again, the reason I want to highlight some of the more nuance, and I haven't even found it yet. Maybe this is just the wrong game and it's just not here. There's nowhere to go. There's just nowhere to go. Here's another example of this is all it is. Where's he going to go? So yeah, it's 3.5 yards and down. If there's no hole to run through, that's what he's going to get. So again, the nuance essentially is find a player where the offensive line is competent and see what he does with that. Again, when he bounces to the outside, it looks pretty decent, but they're having him smash up the middle, which again is not what the Packers are going to have him do. They're going to have him get out in space, and they're going to have him, some pretty well-defined holes for him to run through, and that's when you get to see this 250-pound guy with some decent speed and a freight train kind of mentality coming through. And then again, you correct his pad level, he's going to get in contact with one safety, and he's going to crush his skull. At least that's the idea. Even this, which I would consider to be a relatively bad rep, is an example of what the guy can do with a little bit of space. Again, he's way too tall. He's way too high, but he's also very strong. So he just kind of compensates. It's kind of like with Henry Ruggs, where you look at it and go, that wasn't the greatest route, but he's so fast it doesn't matter. This is a guy who's so strong, it kind of compensates for the fact that he's standing up. And most guys, you take a 5'9", 195-pound running back who's going to stand up. He's going to go down on first contact. A guy who's going to get one hand on his chest and rip him down. That's not exactly the case here. But look, he's got space. So if there's space, push, push, push. Easy 6.5, 7 yards on 2nd and 5. I mean, it was sloppy, but it still worked because he had a couple holes and he's strong. So that's the floor for AJ Dillon. I'm actually going to switch over to Florida State because I'm guessing they're just going to do nothing but pass. And I know I saw it last night when I watched it. That must not have been the game. So let's start with this game, shall we? So first play out of the gate, we're going to see what we never saw in that last game, which is some outside zone. We're going to pitch it, and we're going to have these guys pull. Again, he's up too high, but the other good thing about getting him out in space is there's a lot. It's the defense is more spread out, and when it's congested in here, your power is a lot more limited because you're just smashing into things, right? It's kind of like driving a car into a brick building. It's not going to move very far. You get him out in space, though, you get a little bit more arm tackles, you get a little bit more one-on-ones, and even with him not being quite as technically proficient as you'd like, he's still breaking through tackles, so there's a little bit of space for him to operate, and he's able to push guys out of the way, and this nothing little outside pitch, which doesn't look like much, still generates a decent gain. See how he pushes 3 guys out of the way, and he ends up getting 6 on that. So it's kind of like Jamal Williams-esque, where he's going to get that little bit extra every time, which is a benefit. The question is, can he be better than those guys? or than Jamal as far as being a route runner or the whatever, as a running back, whatever. Here's one glimpse of what I'm talking about in terms of the quick processing and then the ability to really cut quickly and go. Now let's try that again. Here we go. Boop. And then go. Now he didn't, that's the other thing. And again, this is where 250 pounds comes in handy. He does jump out of the way, but he still gets hit, but he doesn't go down. So he jumps out of the way, kind of gets sideswiped, and is able to keep running. Move. I mean, that's a big play. This is, and again, we're talking about rare people. 95% of the time, he's down in the backfield. He's down right there. He's got the ability to blast through that. And then, for the most part, how far down here do most running backs get? I mean, most are down here, so he gets another. That's the Jamal Williams 2-yard special, right? So that was a big play that most people not named AJ Dillon are not going to get. So, I mean, it just is what it is. Mentioned again his ability to block, and I showed last time he gets that head of steam. Last time he just kind of like popped a guy, didn't really level him. Here's an example of him leveling a guy. Here he is. He's going to end up lead blocking on this. Boof. Killed that guy. If he doesn't get shoelace tackled, this is a huge gain. So massive, again, rare. Like that's just not a thing that most teams are going to have. And this is the ultimate AJ Dillon highlight, but I think this is the ultimate AJ Dillon highlight as he currently is. And again, I still haven't really found it yet, but when I do, it shows he's got an even higher upside. But as of today, this is AJ Dillon outside. Break to the outside, use that surprising speed, and then use your strength to just finish those couple little one-on-ones, which you get corners and DBs trying to bring him down. He just laughs in your face. We're at the 35-yard line. He's going to bounce it outside. Full head of steam. Get out of my face. Continues. And smashes him as well. He still gets bumped out of bounds, and there's a flag, so it might be coming back. But again, as of today, is what I would say you're getting at the very least, right? You give him a little bit of hole, he's going to run through it, and he's going to get those extra 2 to 3 yards. He can also bounce it to the outside with surprising speed. He is faster than Jamal Williams at 250 pounds. He gets that freight train mentality going, and he can blast through some people. And again, if he can get low, not in this instance, but in other situations, he gets low enough, he's just going to steamroll DBs. This is a decent example of him navigating. Still not what I was thinking, but again, there's nothing here, and he's able to hop his way through this mess behind this terrible offensive line and get a couple yards, and then at the end, watch again the power to get those extra couple. So there's a guy, move out of the way, get out of his way. So he made 2 guys like this guy miss at least. Right, so there's a guy firing in off the edge immediately. Oh, we're not going back far enough. He's coming in quick, but he's got his blocker, so he's going to tuck in there. He's going to go this. Look at this. I mean, there's nothing here, but he sees this little tiny hole he's going to squeeze through, try anyways. And he kind of, look how he set that up also. He sets it up to the outside so that he goes this way. Let me back that up again. I remember they were talking about Frank Gore doing little stuff like this that was hard to notice. And maybe this is just him doing the wrong thing, but he's going to, the hole is here, right? Everybody's going through here. He's going to run to the outside so that this guy gets baited. Look, he's going to the outside and he's going to the outside, and then he's going to cut back, spin to the inside where the hole is, and push. That was intentional. That's really, really impressive. Again, Frank Gore, I remember hearing, does little things like that, and that's why he's still successful at his age, because he does little stuff like that. And when you're just watching football games, you don't think anything of it, right? You watch that play and you're like, it was just a little run because there was a hole there. He ran through the whole big deal. No, there's no hole there if he doesn't set up to the outside and get 2 defenders to go in the wrong direction. I mean, we saw the lead blocker. The defenders saw where the lead blocker went, and he still was able to bait them away from where the hole was and then spin into the hole and then push his way through. Again, if it was an accident, whatever. But if that was intentional, it's a very cerebral play. Again, this is kind of sloppy, upright running, but this is AJ Dillon with a hole. And he still just looks scary. I mean, he's just a big dude. But again, if he just gets a little bit lower, it's a lot scarier. So this right here is actually a pretty good example. Now, it kind of depends on the sharpness of the angle. We've seen a couple times where he has to take a couple steps to slow down and turn. Here's an example where he just kind of goes this way and then this way, and the angle is just just enough that he doesn't have to take any kind of hop steps or anything. Watch how he just kind of flows. It's just like he doesn't have to slow down at all. And again, that's what Christian McCaffrey did, except Christian McCaffrey could go this way and not have to slow down. But still, it's this nice, smooth flowing action where he can see where he needs to go, immediately burst in that direction, and watch how he gets a full head of steam really quickly here. This is a really nice run. This is one of the things that gets me excited. Watch how he just kind of flows in that new direction. Again, it wasn't a sharp turn at all, but he doesn't have to slow down, and he keeps that full head of steam going. I really, really like that. And here's AJ Dillon. And if you want to see what AJ Dillon can do when he gets low, here's AJ Dillon. It is 3rd and 3. Absolutely no help whatsoever from his offensive line. And again, as I said, if you can get low, the amount of power he can generate is ridiculous. Watch what happens when he gets low. Nowhere to go. He gets down, and look how he just pushes. And look where these guys are. He's all the way down trying to hold him up at his knees because that's how low AJ Dillon is. Get that low and drive with your legs. They can't stop him. That was 3 yards entirely generated by AJ Dillon. The offensive line did nothing on that play. The video kind of cut in a little bit late here, but here's an example. Again, not super special, but you can see the holes. You can see all the space here. He's going to be too upright, and he's just going to play ping pong and just kind of bounce around. And again, he's still got enough power standing up to be able to just push. And it's ugly, but it works. Bing, bang, bing, bing, bong, bong. he's just bouncing off guys, kind of in Eddie Lacy kind of fashion. You know how he just kind of like bounced off people. I think Eddie Lacy did a little bit of a better job getting low, but I mean that's kind of, if you want to call him more of a modern day comp, it would be Derrick Henry. If you're looking for a Packers comp, obviously it's Eddie Lacy. So there you go. Here's another really nice play. And again, you see a little bit of that flowing, right? He kind of just nicely flows here and flows here. Then you get to see that burst up to speed. And then he gets a little bit low, and you see what happens as opposed to going down. He gets low and just blows a guy out of the way. Nice flow. Bing, knocks him out of the way and keeps going. A little bit off balance, but still, he lowers the shoulder a little bit and just annihilates the guy.